So if anyone calls you a nerd because you're wearing an Evangelion shirt, you just sit them down and like, you clearly haven't seen episode 7. Let me tell you all about it.
So much more than fun and games at the Cartoon Cabal. Beyond what's just in the name at the Cartoon Cabal. See just at what cost comes fame at the Cartoon Cabal. So much more than fun and games at the Cartoon Cabal.
Hello, welcome to the Cartoon Cabal, where we are having a run through all of the episodes of Neon Genesis Evangelion. This is Matt here. It's Paranoid American over there. How is it?
Are you saying I'm lazy?
Did I say you were lazy?
And messy too.
And messy, that's right. And chugging beers right after you wake up.
That is actually a traditional Japanese breakfast, as I understand it. Is a little miso, a little bit of, I don't know, like a pork bun, and then you down 2 beers. Isn't that typical?
Actually, of course, she can't be completely wrong, right? So there is a thing where people might have a very little thing of sake, which is considered like Nihonshu sake. That's considered like, there's like medicinal, like Chinese stuff. So people might have a very small thing. If you go to a traditional inn, they'll do that, you know? But yeah, chugging 2 beers is probably frowned upon when you wake up in Japan.
Well, she points that out too. She points out, hey, this is typical. You drink sake in the morning. But she's not drinking sake. She's down in a cold beer. Right.
Oh, before I get too deep, I did piss off my wife. We went to the Uniqlo, right? And they have the sale T-shirt. So they had this one, which I have. So now I can do the podcast with the proper Eva T-shirt here. Yeah. One Eva we haven't met yet on there. I guess that's the one getting shipped in from Germany, maybe. But yeah, when I went with my wife, she wouldn't let me buy it. She was like, "It's too dorky," right?
It
is.
So we're gonna amp it up a little bit.
She let me buy this one. She said this one was not too dorky, which is Sesame Street. It's Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch on there. So she allowed me to buy that one. Of course, I went back and got the Ava one because I'm like, I have a podcast where I do Ava. I can wear. I cannot wear it outside. I won't wear it on the street. So.
I won't let anyone know how nerdy I am deep down.
I also asked my daughter, who did read the manga, like which one is dorkier, the Sesame Street shirt or the Ava shirt, and she also did say that the Ava shirt was dorkier. So that's interesting. I feel like in America you would say the Sesame Street shirt is dorkier.
Oh man!
Or am I just skewed in the head? You know,
it's a real close call. I think that Ava skews older, but unless you see it and appreciate it, it definitely looks way dorkier from the outside. It's just skinny anime girls in mech suits. That kind of feels like the height of nerdom.
I guess
there's a name for it, right? What's the name for those guys that are all into this?
Otaku.
Otaku. So I don't know. Otaku, I assume, means nerd in Japanese.
Yeah, so I guess Sesame Street doesn't cross the otaku line. It's just kind of like...
Sesame Street can be nostalgic more than it can be for nerds.
Well, the interesting thing in Japan is they don't really watch Sesame Street growing up, so they're just characters. That's true for a lot of things in Japan. I even imagine there's the real creepy otaku are probably like into Ava and like never watched the show, you know? I promise you,
creepier if they have seen the show.
Yeah, but right, but people just like know characters. So, like all my students know the Cookie Monster, but they don't really know the Cookie Monster. They don't know what he acts like and stuff. Like he's cute, right? No, he screams at you and then eats everything. So that's the Cookie Monster. They don't know that.
Burden. He's a burden to his friends and family. Is the good way to put it.
They know the image of Kermit the Frog, but they don't really know anything about Kermit the Frog.
So he's a domestic abuse survivor.
That's right. So running the Muppet Show, work abuse too. Yeah, he gets it from all ends.
That's kind of his role, right?
Well, the Muppet Show, he doesn't live with Miss Piggy, does he? They're kind of a will they won't they sort of crossbreeding animal couple.
Yeah, although he definitely does get physically abused by her, and there's like a romantic connection there. Whatever, they haven't put a label on it, but she's definitely committing abuse.
Well, they get married in the Muppets Take Manhattan, and they are divorced by the terrible mid-2010s The Muppets series, which they tried to make it like The Office, and now, you know, Kermit and Piggy is split up, and the show sucks. So that's the Muppets nobody should watch. Why am I talking about Muppets that much? Oh, because of the otaku stuff. And here we are, otaku Ava. Yeah. So
I think Ava still wins out on the nerd scale. I don't personally think it's technically a nerdy movie, but I can absolutely see that from the outside.
So I should listen to my family about what's dorky and what's not. Although, again, even in Japan, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go down the street with an Ava shirt, but I'm going to wear it for this podcast, of course.
Of course. I mean, you have to.
What was your take on this episode, just out of curiosity?
I liked it. I think this is the least annoying that Shinji has been so far. Maybe
he takes a little agency.
What's that?
He takes a little agency for once. He isn't just shoved into an Ava, you know?
Well, and we hear that too from Ray, because she tells him, or she says, hey, I kind of like that he's talking back a little bit now. He's actually kind of growing into his own. I doubt he's going to keep that up, but we'll see. Yeah, he actually acts like a normal character for once.
Yeah. Well, again, in previous episodes, I am saying like he's one of the more realistic characters, so you still have to contend with that. But
I also
he might be less realistic in this one, because he isn't just acting like a dumb 14-year-old. But dumb 14-year-olds, of course, can step up to the plate when need be.
Some of this was realistic too. The other main plot point in this whole episode is essentially that there's another government contractor that has some kind of sweetheart deal with a senator, or whatever you want to call him, like a official government representative, and he's making this case that the Avas are dangerous. They're putting the children's hearts are at risk. They've used children's hearts to guide these things, which is actually technically true. And he's got somebody that basically is going to replace the Avas, and they're all just remote control. And the whole episode ties around the political game in which Ava has to justify its funding and its practices, and ultimately it goes haywire. The guy is demoing this new technology with his remote, and it immediately loses comms, and then they have to use the Avas to stop this other contractor's sort of fake Ava, pseudo Ava. So I don't know. I liked the premise of this, because this seems pretty realistic, that, you know, the best option is not being used because someone else in government can make a buck off of it. And then it even shows all of the stupid government bureaucracy where they have to get permission in order to shut down, you know, their remote control Ava. And the guy's like, okay, well, let me call this guy that's high up, and that guy's playing golf, and he's like, submit it in writing. And then the guy has to go back and say he's going to submit in writing and get permission from 3 or 4. Meanwhile, the NERV team, they're so small and nimble, and basically they're showing that there's way less government oversight as to what NERV's doing. So they're ultimately selling you on the Patriot Act. They're just saying, like, let us take care of it. Don't let it go through Congress. Don't let it go through all these different government channels where it's all documented and has checks and balances. Just let us put these 14-year-olds in the mech bodies and call it a day.
That's right. And yeah, that is Japanese bureaucracy for sure. Shin Godzilla also makes a lot of use out of that, where that movie is fun, and that all of the Godzilla scenes are like big, wide, slow shots of Godzilla moving through the city. And then all of the bureaucracy scenes are shot with like lots of edits and going crazy, like action scenes. And then most of the movie is these crazy bureaucracy scenes, which might make the movie sound horrible, but it's good. Recommend Shin Godzilla, except for the first few stages of Godzilla, which is crap CG. Final stage looks good, but the first couple do look like crap in that movie, unfortunately. Which also, hey, Ava connection, you know, you got Anno involved with that, so.
Well, and we're essentially talking all kaiju, right?
Yeah, we're talking all kaiju all the time. No mechs in that one, though. That's just Godzilla. But yeah, that's kind of like the whole Shin thing. Like he was like, oh, let's, you know, and 10 years ago or 10 to 15 years ago, they were remaking Ava. So it's like, hey, let's remake Godzilla. Let's remake Ultraman. Let's remake, what else they do? Kamen Rider, all this stuff. So,
I mean, in my mind, I realize that there's differences, but it's all kind of the same thing where you talk about I don't know if it's Ultraman and Godzilla and Power Rangers and Ava and Voltron. You can kind of just put them all in the same category as these big city building-sized mechs or building-sized monsters that are fighting, kind of like the Rampage video game.
Yeah, and somehow it just seems like the goal, or Anno's goal, is like, let's make all of this mech stuff like, serious. That seems to, and kaiju serious. That seems to be kind of like his goal in life or something, yeah?
The message that I got from this particular episode is that it really does take the heart of a child in order to beat these fallen angels, and that not just that this soulless, brainless, heartless, remote-controlled mech can't do the job, because technically that could be piloted, but I think they're saying that it needs to be a 1-for-1 ratio here. It can't be controlled remotely, and it can't be controlled by an adult. It has to be the heart and the mind of a young child, of a 14-year-old kid. And for some reason, that is going to probably end up revealing a really important factor and why no other solution works other than this.
Now, discounting the part you just mentioned where we're using kids, I did write in my notes near the end, like, and not as in a critical way. It's different enough, but I was like, isn't this the plot of RoboCop? The other company, or the other department in RoboCop, has the ED-209, which is, completely mechanical. So of course RoboCop has to come and take down a berserk ED-209. I'm like, well, that's the plot here. Now they don't shoot the president of the other company and have him flying out a window in this one. So that's a difference. But
they do sort of hint at the ethics of this, because again, you can see that the other contractor, he's leaning into, look at how horrible this is. You're running this off of children. Like, real children are going to get hurt in these big Ava suits. And that's why our solution is so much better, blah, blah, blah. But he's got a point, right? Like, would you rather have RoboCops running around where they've actually taken a human being and merged them with technology, and that's going to be the police? Or would you rather have just a straight up robotic dog creature that acts as all police? So you have to pick one of the two. It's either half human, half mech, or all mech.
And the human part's getting somewhat, at least they're getting PTSD, if nothing else.
Correct. Yeah, there's absolutely pain and mental trauma involved regardless.
Okay, well, let's take the RoboCop's a little weirder though, in that it's like we're taking this guy has died and we're basically resurrecting him into this robot and wiping his unwillingly, right? Wiping his memory. Yeah, so that's kind of creepier than the Eva stuff, even if they are 14.
Yeah, I mean, Demolition Man is sort of similar, although he doesn't get any biomech upgrades, but it's kind of the same thing.
Of course, the other big thing in this episode is they're lying to you about Antarctica, which, that's like, a little golf clap when that starts happening. And then you get a golf scene, right? So
standard fare, but also they're showing that I personally believe that the deeper thinking and the links to esoteric stuff, maybe they're still just pulling up crumpled pieces of paper out of a hat and mixing them up. It's like, hey guys, we drew the Antarctica tab today. I guess that's going into episode 7. But I do appreciate, because it's holographically starting to put Ava and the world that all this is happening into like a more and more defined shell.
Right. Well, and this is from me like rereading the plot. I don't remember if they specifically said it in the episode or not, but the first impact is how the moon is formed. The second impact is this thing 15 years ago, which, has drowned the world and melted Antarctica. And the third impact is what they're, trying to avert at this point.
There was also one line that stood out, and it's another thing the contractor was saying. And he says, quote, Avas are this weapon that can run out of control. And a weapon that cannot be controlled is like a hysterical woman, completely out of control.
I wrote that down too. The reason I wrote it down is Japanese politicians say this kind of crap all the time. And I mean, just this week, someone had to step down because they said something stupid. A few weeks ago, they got a new minister of agriculture, because the old one was like, saying how people can just eat chicken feed for rice because there's like a rice crisis in Japan for a while. I guess we're still in it, but I don't eat that much rice myself. But yeah, he was like, people just eat chicken rice or something. Or no, he said he got all his rice for free. That's what it was. Someone else called the rice chicken feed. And he said he got all his rice for free because farmers would just give him rice. So that pissed everyone off. and then that one's not sexist, but plenty of that comes out too. So that's just the most recent example.
Is this something that you might have actually heard in Japanese court in the 90s, mid 90s?
Last week is what I'm saying.
Okay.
We've had politicians say it's like a woman in hysterics, like probably this year. There's a little.
This one doesn't really have any major battles going on, and it doesn't have any other really esoteric links to it. But you mentioned that there was some interesting production stuff behind the scenes that we can break down.
Well, yeah, and one of the things I was going to say is this was not a well-received episode. Like, some people call this the worst one. They're like, it's filler. But I was like, I don't know. I guess pulling the Antarctica card made me happy. So because I like that stuff. So maybe that pushed it up a little bit. And yeah,
okay. If this is the worst that it gets, then that's promising.
Yeah. Like what was it? Episode 4 was the one where it's like it was good, but like really nothing happened. I'm like, oh, something happened. It's a side story, but I think you do need this context. It's world building. This is a good world building episode, and episode 7 can be a world building episode. Why not?
I mean, I think they're just showing that even though we've been seeing NERV act with pretty much no oversight. No one's like, hey, wait a minute, you have to get approval to do this. They've just been running on autopilot a little bit. And this one just shows that they do still live in this world where government bureaucracy is still technically something that might kill us. Like that. Like this could have destroyed the human race if this contractor had gotten his way. So I guess even now the economy matters. Like Papa still needs to get a nice new sports car, even in this apocalyptic afterlife.
Well, I've discussed before how I just feel it feels so weird that everything in, like society is basically running as it is, like post-apocalypse, which I had a conversation. What were we watching? Some Highlander 2. I was watching Highlander 2 for one of my other podcasts where they have another 15 years post-apocalypse future, or might be more than that, but generally the same vibe. But their society is grimy, dirty, it's falling apart. And I was actually talking to my co-host there who likes Ava a lot. And I was like, and he was saying he actually likes the Ava one because he's like, yeah, there's an apocalypse, people just ignore as much as they can and get on with themselves. Or in Highlander 2, I was just like, well, yeah, but there's that. I feel like Ava should have like a little more degrade of, I don't know, standard of living or something, which it doesn't.
They should be rock stars. Yeah, they should be living in mansions and afforded all of the luxuries of life. So there's literally nothing else for them to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, they're sending Shinji into the local public school, right? Which does seem to have students again. A giant cube has crashed in Tokyo 3. We saw that in one of the first shots, but all the kids came back to school. That's weird.
But he's also the coolest kid in school now because he lives with this hot drunk that drives drunk and just shows up and slams her car into the parking spots.
Right. And they don't care about the saving the world part. I mean, they know about that too. They just don't care about that part. It's living with Misato that gets them, isn't it?
Well, I mean, they're teenagers. What do you want?
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that stuck out is this was in the proposal for the series like several years before the thing came together. So this is actually in like ground floor content. I guess maybe this is like the series Bible just being put into an episode, I mean, everything does make more sense now about how things are running.
It just grounds it a little bit more. So if this episode gives us a chance to take a breath and it's not all just like weird, abstract, technical jargon and new names of angels that have fallen down to the ground that we have to kind of figure out what their roles are. This one is very much like a behind the scenes. Like, by the way, everything operating now is human. So I appreciate a slowdown in pace. This is kind of cleansing the palate a little bit. So I expect it's going to get real crazy next.
And we do also sort of learn, yes, there are other countries that are still running normally, like Germany, America, because it wasn't clear if, it's like Japan is like the only nation that's still here. That's not clear until this episode, because there is, I think in Space Battleship Yamato, it's like there's only Japan now. So it's like, are they going to go with that? Which is one of the reasons I was so confused by society being like kind of as together as it is in the series. I was like, well, where is Germany? Oh, Germany's making the next Ava. Okay, got it.
America's probably doing great at this point. We haven't seen what America's up to.
Well, what do they say? They say a few things that, that's the only one that hasn't approved the budget for the new Avas, but they'll probably do it. And something, they're addicted to unemployment or something that they say.
Yeah, everyone's on welfare in the apocalypse of USA.
Yeah. It sounds like they're kind of referring to that. So that was that's like the most political commentary I feel like we've gotten, well, everything else is looking at in the mirror. It's Japanese stuff. But yeah, that little one-off line of America's addicted to unemployment definitely stood out.
Yeah. Our Avas are just all like EBT, created with EBT goods. Right.
Moving on through some of this production stuff, in the general, Gendo's office, there is a whole bunch of stuff on the ceiling and floor. There's like cosmological stuff on the floor. There's an Tree of Life on the top. I mean, that's literally throwing stuff at the wall or the ceiling and the floor in this case. It's literally throwing stuff at the ceiling and the floor, but just knowing that they are putting in the show proper and not necessarily just in the credits.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because it shows that even if it's not going to be fully explained, that even the characters themselves have an interest in these symbols. It's not, like you said, it's not just in the intro, which I guess goes a little bit of a way, get like a 2% of the way.
Since we are seeing less DARPA style or NERV style insanity in this episode, they went out of their way to make more real life vehicles like the SSTO spacecraft, a Ferrari 328, an American Northrop YB-49 prototype jet-powered heavy bomber. Wow. Okay, that's a very specific. No, they changed their mind to use the North American XB-70 Valkyrie. Okay, so it's just they got really like kind of vehicle geek and vehicle otaku in this episode for whatever reason.
Valkyrie. That's actually pretty cool that they modeled it after actual things. I guess, again, because they're grounding it in reality and separating themselves from this weird abstract nerd. So if anyone calls you a nerd because you're wearing an Evangelion shirt, you just sit them down and like, you clearly haven't seen episode 7. Let me tell you all about it.
I don't even know. I have to read text on this shirt. I just have there's a bunch of text on this shirt. Main power, complete, affirmative, initiating, level something connect, interface system connect, A10 nerve connect achieve, status green, LCL ionization levels normal. Sorry, I just have to start reading the shirt. That should do the trick.
And then they'll be like, I stand corrected.
I stand corrected for sure.
This is big boy content.
Yes. Where was I going with that? I don't remember. So yeah, I started reading my shirt and it wiped my brain, which I guess a sci-fi checklist will kind of like wipe your brain out a bit.
Well, honestly, if you ever stare at your phone starting up or your computer or certain programs where you have to save and it goes through a certain number of little progress bars and then a message and then more progress bars, it turns into a legitimate ritual where your mind just kind of travels to another place a little bit and you just stare at the sands of time kind of going through the hourglass in a way. So I don't know. I feel that this is like it enters a trance-like state by getting all those startup and initiation messages. So Shinji gets inside the Ava and you start seeing all the things that are starting to like orient and calibrate to the world. That in itself is the same ritual that he keeps going through.
And just to tie in the human tech connection, while you're saying that, I was like, don't we kind of do that? Now, tell me if it's just me, but every once in a while, I'll wake up, especially in summer, because the sun comes up at like 4 a.m. now. But, I'll be up early in the morning, not quite sleeping, not quite dreaming, and I'll just be doing some weird repetitive task that makes no sense once I wake up. Like, I have to move my foot here. Now I have to move it here to do this. And I'm like, is that kind of our startup routine like that?
I mean, Tony Blair used to wake up and draw an actual magic circle and stand inside of it and think about his intents for the day. So I feel
But
that
he intentionally did that. I'm talking about something where you're kind of unconsciously doing this weird task because you're not fully awake.
I think you got to harness it. I think that if you're doing that, it means that your body is aching to figure out an actual ritual, and it's expressing itself in ways that are letting you know, like, you need to start drawing a magic circle.
I don't have room for a magic circle in this room. I have to go to a different room. I'd probably have to go outside. Japanese houses have small rooms. I feel like a magic circle.
It only has to be big enough to fit your 2 feet in it. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. I'll have to start magic circling. But yeah, I'm just trying to tie in the bio with the tech, and I'm like, do we kind of have startup routines to reorient ourselves with the world? Because at first I was like, well, no, I feel like the dreaming's like another dimension, man. So going between bardos, but then the reconnecting with this world thing, I'm just like, hey, I think we do have startup routines. At least I do.
At least you've got a little more control in this world. Even if you were to get into lucid dreaming, the difficulty in order to keep consistency in a lucid dream would be insane. Like, it would be much harder if they could only pilot the Avas in a lucid dream state.
Excuse me. I'm just looking through my notes here, and the just a few more of my notes. The home music is entertainingly ridiculous. I like how they showed their morning routine with that insane music. So,
what I'm not even sure I was paying attention to the music.
It was just this really wacky music, like, and we have 3 home routines starting, so it happens 3 times. You know, the penguin's reading the newspaper. The first time and the third time, Misato's chugging her beer. The second time, maybe she's not, because she's going to Tokyo, old Tokyo, for business, and she's bummed out, right? So, but they still play the music, and then she's like a buzzkill when she shows up in her black suit.
Okay, yeah. No, it sounds like 90s montage music a little bit, like sitcom montage music. I actually really appreciated it.
Yeah, just hit some goofy thing where, and like usually that thing might be like a little annoying, and in this case I was like, okay, this actually is like entertaining. I also like just in the fact that this episode points out, because usually it's like the government knows this and the people don't, but here they're like, yeah, most of our secrets have slipped out, you know, and intelligence sucks.
Well, that actually happened because the guy mentioned that they kept running into this AT field, and she's like, how do they know that? And it's because there's a leak somewhere in NERV. NERV is leaking stuff into the government sphere, and then the government is just leaking that out into the public to kind of show that they've got the inside scoop on stuff, which all sounds pretty realistic.
Right. So I'm just contrasting that with a lot of media where it's like, no, the government really knows this stuff. And there's like one, you know, the one guy in his freaking trailer that knows, right? Where here it seems like people generally now know what an AT field is, you know?
Kind of. Well, and I'm getting the impression that NERV is definitely some sort of government agency. There's no way that they have the clearance and the resources to do what they're doing if they're not some sort of CIA, Pentagon level. But that there's other government agencies that are not coordinating with them, they are even antagonistic towards NERV. So this is kind of the same story as DEA versus FBI versus ATF versus whatever, right? I guess technically NERV, I don't know, would it be CIA if you're fighting intergalactic? Because CIA is supposed to be international.
I keep saying DARPA for them because it's all the tech stuff, right?
I guess, yeah. DARPA is more of like a scientific archive of all these different projects. So I think there are cross-discipline and cross-branch coordination when it comes to DARPA, because DARPA is just DOD, which encompasses everything. To me, NERV is almost like the combination of like a DARPA and a CIA in a way.
Yeah, which I guess you wouldn't need that until you have angels attacking, right? So it's just a particular strain of government that maybe we do not currently have because we don't have kaiju.
There has to be an actual government plan somewhere in the archives. It's like, if fallen Nephilim come to Earth and they start, destroying everything, and we find out that only 14-year-old hearts can battle them, here's what we're going to do. And I'm sure that someone's been paid at least a few $100,000 to kind of plan all this out and just come up with contingencies.
And then my one bit of snark, just at the end of the episode, of course, Shinji gets Misato into this AWOL mech, and she's been given the password, and it doesn't work. And my first thought is the caps on, maybe? Did she check that? Could be maybe make the H big and the other letters small. I feel like
another beer. That sounds like the solution.
Yeah. She just slammed a beer into that. Well, she doesn't drink on the job, it seems. It's like all the 60s musicians were like, no, they weren't on drugs in the studio. They were just on drugs the rest of the time. I'm sure they're on drugs in the studio a few times. That's why the music was good.
And that's what keeps the edge off for her. And again, it seems that in these circumstances, you might allow your pilots to play outside, like color outside the lines a little bit.
Right. Well, she's the ops director in this case. Also, yeah, her table at the corporate dinner or whatever was like everyone else had food and theirs just had the beer. So, and they kept just having shots of that over and over. They kept having shots of the bottles while this corporate guy's giving his speech.
Yeah, so the ops director of this DARPA, CIA, ATF, I guess, group that is in charge of saving the human race is just a raging drunk, and everyone knows it. And she drives drunk up to a school, wearing like nothing but a nightie, and then grabs Shinji and drives back over to the NERV headquarters. And this is acceptable.
Well, she's really good at her job.
Right, she's a very functional drunk, which is what I'm saying is that if everything is on the line, then maybe you let people play into their vices a little bit, because it's not like you can say or else, because what's going to show up behind? Well, I guess another clone. I guess that's the answer, another clone.
Do you have any thoughts you want to throw out on this one before we wrap it up?
Again, if this is supposed to be the slow episode, then I guess it's about to get really insane. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, we will go ahead and see what's insane next week or tomorrow, however we air these things. They air differently. Where does your stuff air?
Well, my stuff airs on YouTube, and then if you're a YouTube member, you'll get advanced access to the video edits on some of these, which sometimes come out a month or two ahead of when I'm able to put the audio out. And then on the Patreon, the same deal. If you go onto the Patreon, you'll get ad-free versions of everything, so that even if you want to watch it on video, you won't have to deal with those pesky YouTube ads. And by the way, you can also just get like Brave Browser or something, and then you'll never see an ad on YouTube anyways. You don't have to sign up for anything, and that's just me.
What if I want a DARPA playset?
DARPA playset, actually, I've got a couple others in the works. I'm got to get rid of the ones that I've got now. They're all at paranoidamerican.com. They're called Paranoid Playsets. I did just release the America F Yeah playset, which has a Statue of Liberty holding an AR-15 and a bottle of beer, and there's some syringes on the ground, and there's a hot dog, and there's like some money. They're fun. They're limited edition, handmade little, what do they call? Make your own collectible MOC. They are brick compatible. Wink, wink, nod, nod. No trademark implied.
On my end, if you're viewing this, look down. Podcastius.org is where I do a bunch of stuff. I mentioned Highlander 2 earlier. That was one of my co-hosts' birthday pick. If you want to hear about a different kind of apocalypse, that is Films and Filth, where we cover what are supposed to be really good movies and really bad movies according to IMDb users. Highlander 2, 4.2 rating, not quite bad enough to be on our bad list, but I think that's a good movie, especially the one with all the weird alien stuff.
Learn about the full history of the Bavarian Illuminati. Adam Weishaupt, Alumbrados, Jesuits, Rosicrucians, Freemasons, and more. From the 18th century to modern day, we expose it all. That's right, it's the Illuminati comic from Donut and Paranoid Paranoid American. Get yours now at IlluminatiComic.com.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when the beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.